underlying problem where many Muslims, and especially our imams, many of them, view that they should not only be teachers, but leaders of government, that they should be able to write law, and only they can write law, and not lay Muslims, the common Muslim. So that needs a discussion, it needs a debate, it needs a healthy reform and modernization.
But by saying, as Peter King does, that about 85% of mosques here have been radicalized, doesn't that therefore make people want to therefore target mosques, target your religion?
Again, I've not used that language. I don't think he's wedded to that percent. We do need to look at foreign financing of extremist ideologies, such as may come from Wahhabi Islam in Saudi Arabia, that comes to the United States, and that's number of mosques in this country that are funded from them. So that can influence the ideology in American mosques. It's not percentage that high. We haven't really studied it to look and see what influence that has, the negative influence on reform, and how it creates an obstacle for modernization. These things need to be discussed, but there have been other hearings. There was a Senate hearing on Wahhabi influence in American mosques in 2003, and that number's in there from Stephen Schwartz's testimony. So it's not a new number. I don't use it because we can't really, it needs to be something that we talk about, not percentages, but more ideology.
Critics of this hearing say that it can only lead to further divisions, that it'll prevent Muslims from actually getting involved with the police, passing on any information if necessary. Do you agree with that?
I do not. Again, like my testimony discussed, police cooperation is that final step. Every Muslim I know would turn in somebody who's going to commit an act of terror. That's not where the problem is. The problem is the environment that creates it over years, where they're being told not to work with law enforcement, not to work with the FBI, to only have an attorney when they approach them. All these kind of things create a separatist mentality where they don't identify with America and they feel that America is against them. So actually, a lot of the media and concern on especially the left that this is targeting inflames this issue and doesn't allow us to have a rational discourse, and I think is preventing from us having the normal conversation that we would otherwise have.
Now, it's certainly worth mentioning that a man with links to a white supremacist group was picked up earlier today. He was apparently trying to set off a bomb earlier this year, and this adds fuel to those against targeting Muslims in this kind of investigation. They say rather target all groups with links to radicals. Why just pick on Muslims? So that's not going to stop Peter King. He's already said that he's planning for his next hearing. That's going to be in 2 months' time. He's going to be looking at the radicalization of Muslims in prison services, and we'll certainly keep you updated on that one. Now, another battle is underway, of course, as we know, in U.S. state of Wisconsin. It's said to be the first state to remove nearly all union rights for public workers. In a surprise procedural move, the state Senate approved the bill on Thursday. The vote followed more than 3 weeks of protests by teachers and other state workers in an attempt to stop the measure. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker says he'll sign the bill as quickly as he can legally.
Public employees like myself will pay a little bit more for pension. Public employees like myself will pay a little bit more for health care, but in both cases less than what the average middle-class taxpayer pays in the state for both of those. And third, public employees will no longer be mandated by law to be in a union. They'll have the choice to do that. They'll have the right to choose whether or not they're in a union.
Al Jazeera's Rob Reynolds has the latest from Madison. That's the capital of Wisconsin State.
The protests are ongoing here at the state capitol in Madison, Wisconsin. Protesters are loud and angry. That's because on Wednesday, Republicans passed the bill that would strip most collective bargaining rights from public service employees' unions. Now, that came as something of a surprise. Democrats in the Senate had hoped that they would be able to prevent the bill from passing simply by staying away from the Senate. But using some legislative sleight of hand, Republicans were able to pass the bill, and they've sent it on to Governor Scott Walker. Walker, for his part, saying that the passage of the bill will allow the state to balance its budget, create jobs, and prevent the layoffs of many state employees. But the union members we've been speaking to here say they believe it's about something else. They believe it's about breaking the public employees' unions, which have been a potent source of support for the Democratic Party. Many people here are now talking about mounting a recall effort to take Governor Walker out of office. They're also going to challenge the bill on the grounds that it violated state laws about open meetings. Now, these demonstrations will continue, and on Saturday, they're planning a massive demonstration with hoping to get as many as 100,000 people to take part.
Okay, let's get some more European news from Felicity Barr in London. Felicity.
Jane, thanks very much indeed. We'll begin with the news that Italy's government has adopted a controversial draft bill that would overhaul the justice system, restricting the powers of prosecutors. Now, Silvio Berlusconi's opponents accused the Prime Minister of proposing laws in order to dodge his own prosecution. Barnaby Phillips reports.
Silvio
Berlusconi announced the reforms with a bandage on his face.
Estetico a cui sono sottoposto.
He's had surgery to repair damage suffered when he was attacked in the streets 18 months ago. So what's the connection between these judicial reforms and his own well-publicised legal difficulties?
Zero, assolutamente zero. Questa riforma noi l'abbiamo...
Zero, absolutely zero. We've been planning this since 1994 when we entered politics. I've told young people from my party Forza Italia that I will never leave politics without first introducing this sort of reform into our judicial system.
So what exactly are Berlusconi's reforms? He wants a clear separation between judges and prosecutors, with less power for prosecutors. He wants judges to pay damages for mistakes. And he wants a more efficient system. Looming over Italy is the impending case of Berlusconi and the girl they call Ruby the Heart Stealer. He's accused of paying her for sex before her 18th birthday. They deny this, but his opponents say it's no coincidence that he's now trying to reform the judiciary.
He needs a diversion to talk about something else from that. And this provides him with a very, very powerful smokescreen and a platform upon which he can claim that the justice system is unfair, that investigative magistrates are politically biased, that the whole thing needs to be changed. And so that's why it's coming up now with this proposal of reform, I believe.
Over the years, Silvio Berlusconi has faced at least a dozen trials and many investigations, mostly on corruption charges. He's always maintained his innocence, but his many battles with the judiciary don't help his credibility as a legal reformer. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera.
A memorial service has been held for one of the 2 US servicemen killed by an alleged Islamic extremist at Frankfurt Airport last week. It's believed that 21-year-old Zachary Kudabak was shot by a Kosovo Albanian, angry at operations in Afghanistan. Senior Airman Nick Alden was also shot dead. The alleged gunman is in prison awaiting further investigation. Charles Taylor's lawyer claims prosecution witnesses in the ex-Liberian president's trial were bribed with cash payments and that the court should not rely on their statements. It comes as the trial in The Hague draws to a close. The 62-year-old pleads not guilty to 11 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The trial is expected to conclude on Friday. And Spain's credit rating has been moved down a notch by the rating agency Moody's, which has warned that financial restructuring will cost more than the government expects. The country is under pressure from